What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another summer edition of Morning Cup of Hockey presented by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. So use our code Daily365. Colby Cohen is out on vacation, so we got Frank Seravalli in to replace him. And I'm sure we're not going to make fun of Colby at all while he's not here to defend himself. But Frank, I haven't talked to you all summer, so before we go into any hockey stuff, I just want to give credit to myself for not bothering you all summer. But I have missed you, and it's good to see your face again. So I just wanted to ask you quickly how your summer went, and if you're ready for the season to start up here. We're gearing up for training camp.
Yeah, training camp tomorrow. Let's go. Summer was good. It was quiet. Didn't do much. Lots of time with the kids, some time at the beach. And yeah, it was good. I actually saw Colby a couple times. He came over. So that was good. But yeah, didn't hear from you. Where you been, guy?
I've been keeping quiet because I'm going to bother you for the next 9 months. I know how to, ramp it up when I have to. But the news is starting to come in. Yesterday, Sidney Crosby signs, Lucas Raymond signs. I want to start with Sid, though. Obviously signs that 2-year extension, $8.7 million per year. Now, 3 years left in Pittsburgh that he signed for. Does the extension yesterday end the conversation of Crosby potentially wearing another uniform at some point? Can we put that to rest? Or, if Pittsburgh doesn't do well next year, let's say in the first year of that new deal, is it a conversation again?
No, it should have never been a conversation. Okay. I think anyone who truly understands what Sidney Crosby is all about, his commitment to Pittsburgh has been really clear and it's never wavered. So to me, I think the most fascinating part of the contract is still the AAV. Like it's been really funny seeing the reaction from fans on Twitter saying, look how committed Sidney Crosby is to the bit, because he's kept his contract at $8.7 million per year for the last 17 years, 17 plus 2. It's crazy how consistent that AAV has been. It's also crazy how criminally underpaid he's still going to be on this next contract. So there's two different ways, in my opinion, to look at this deal. One, from a Pittsburgh Penguins perspective, it just reinforces, I think, the fact that Sidney Crosby is maybe the most perfect hockey player of all time. Takes less, wants to see the team win and do more. His accolades and trophy case speaks for itself. He's an NHL Mount Rushmore player, top 4 all time. One of the all-time greats, and not just the greatest player of his generation, the greatest player of many generations. So you take all that, and it's truly impressive what he's done. And it's truly impressive, really, what this contract says about him at this juncture of his career. He was 12th in league scoring last year and had one of his best goal scoring seasons in a long time. He could have easily, and we were spitballing 3 times 10 this summer. Like that sort of seemed the range and world that he would have been in. And I saw something from the Athletics, Dom Lecision, who calculated that he thinks that Crosby has left $43 million on the table in his career. And look, he's still going to be a really wealthy man. He's going to end his career with 164, if this is the last contract, which I'm not sure it is, 164 million. He's well taken care of. So money's not the issue. But on the other hand, and you knew there was going to be a but here, if I'm someone else on another team, and not Nathan McKinnon because they're tight, but if you're another player that has constantly tried to move the ball forward and set a new bar for NHL players who are, in relation to other sports, still criminally underpaid. We see Steph Curry, $63 million a year. Connor McDavid, 12.5. Like it's insane, some of these contract comparables. And then you have Sid taking even less. If I'm a player in the union, if I'm a star player in the union, I don't really know how I feel about this contract, and I probably don't like it. What would you think as a former high level player?
I mean, when you put it in the NBA terms, Leon Draisaitl just signed that contract, $14 million per AAV, and that's what Mitchell Robinson on the Knicks gets, who's like, questionably coming off the bench.
Like some games might not play.
Yeah, well, no, he plays. He's good. Give Mitchell Robinson his credit; he deserves it. But I like, for me, it's tough for me to tell. Obviously, I've never had a contract negotiation, but obviously, like, you want to set yourself up for success the rest of your life. But to your point, like, a guy like Sid is never going to be concerned about making money post-career, right?
But here's the problem with that
Mhm.
is when you take less, it only matters that you take less if you have complete trust and faith in your front office that they will actually spend it wisely.
Yeah, and that everyone else will when their
And
time comes.
unfortunately, Chris Letang didn't take less. And then they went and traded for Erik Karlsson, and he's got a massive contract. Like, essentially, Sid's money is going in Erik Karlsson's pocket, or pick another player on the team. Like, if that's how you're going to spend it, I'm not seeing the value in it. And whether it's Kyle Dubas in this tenure, because Sid's contract has now remained static, right? It hasn't changed. It hasn't increased. You're hoping, wishing, praying, if you're Sid, that your manager is spending it wisely. And I've seen no proof so far in the Kyle Dubas era. I've seen no proof going back to the Ron Hextall era that anyone there is actually spending it wisely. So why would you take less?
Okay, well, also my thought with this signing, and I know this is probably not Crosby's thought or anyone in Pittsburgh's organization's thought, just the way I was hoping, I guess, as a fan, because I wanted to see Crosby move on. And I think maybe if you look 2 years ahead, 8.7 per year, does that make it easier to trade him? If
he's not, dude, he's not
that's
going
not even like a thought.
No, he's not going anywhere.
Okay. I'm going to keep pushing that, though, a little bit.
Well, because everyone wants that to be a media narrative, because it's fun to dream up where might you see Sidney Crosby play elsewhere.
It is, though.
Everyone looks at Tom Brady leaving the New England Patriots and going to Tampa and winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to think about what that possibility might be like. I will be head sewn to the carpet, floored, if Sidney Crosby plays for someone else.
Okay. We'll leave it at that.
This contract was all about two things.
His love for Pittsburgh, loyalty.
Well, it was loyalty. And the other thing was, I think Sid, at this juncture of his career, entering his 20th season, now under contract for 21 and 22, I don't know that he knows how long he wants to play, and he doesn't want to hamstring the Penguins on a longer-term deal if he's not entirely sure.
Plus, I don't know if Crosby...
I think the Penguins wanted to go 4 years.
Really? He doesn't strike me as a guy also that, like, let's say he does slow down a little bit, which I still don't see happening. I mean, he's unbelievable, but I don't see Crosby being a guy that would be a third line center somewhere. Like, he'd want to be at least a first line guy wherever he goes. Like, I can't see him, let's say, in 3-4 years going to Colorado and playing third line minutes.
At that point, I think you'd be more likely to see him not playing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he's got a certain level and bar that he's used to, and if he's not at that level, then my guess is he's probably not going to be playing. Exactly. And that's the way. No offense, that's the way all of the all-time greats should have been or should be.
100%.
Don't hang on too long.
100%. I want to move into the next thing. Lucas Raymond, 8 years, $8.075 million per extension with Detroit. And the question for you here is, does this make the Red Wings the unanimous sexiest team that missed the playoffs last year to make the playoffs this year? Because I can't think of another team.
Not for me.
Not for you?
No.
Who's a team that missed last year that you think gets in this year then? That would be more popular than Detroit.
Well, it's the Devils.
I
have the Devils.
That's a better team for sure. Yep.
I personally think,
even with the injury to Luke Hughes and Nemitz.
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, look at how New Jersey, reimagined their blue line.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're significantly better than they were a year ago. Not only is Dougie Hamilton healthy, but Brett Pesce, Brendan Dillon, like, they've finally got a little support there. To me, I have the Sabres ahead of the Red Wings right now. Yeah, I think Buffalo's defense core this upcoming season. Tell me how many teams 1 through 4 have a better 4.
Yeah, even the bottom pair too. We talked about it with Tage Thompson when he was on the show a couple of weeks ago. I mean, they're still young though. They are still young. That's the one thing that they are lacking is that experience back there. But I still think that Detroit's forward
I
group
don't
is so
like. I
much
don't
better.
think any one of those guys is inexperienced. Rasmus
What-
Dahlin has played 436 games. Owen Power, he's at approaching 200. Bowen Byram, he's approaching 200. Has won a Stanley Cup. Like I don't look at these guys and say they're really inexperienced.
I have a hard time trusting them though down the stretch. Like when it really comes to a playoff push, just knowing the last 2 years, like 2 years ago, Buffalo was really in it. Last year, they weren't in it as much. And
That's because they couldn't score, and that part they need to figure out.
but that's, I mean, yeah, the offense is the concern.
Okay,
there.
so I love Simon Edvinsson in Detroit. And obviously, Mo Sider is the next big contract after this Lucas Raymond deal and a huge part of their offseason. Tell me what you like about Detroit's defense. Tell me what part of that screams to you, this is a team that absolutely is going to go from non-playoff team to playoff team.
I just think from last year, the momentum they built in the end and having Kane come back for a full season. I mean, Kane was only half a year last year. They bring in Tarasenko after a cup run with Florida this year. A veteran guy like Tyler Mott. I like their forward group more than their D, obviously. I would say Buffalo has a better D core than Detroit. I'd even argue that Buffalo has actually better goaltending than Detroit, but you never know with Cam Talbot. Last year obviously wasn't his greatest showing, but I think, this fresh start in Detroit for him could be something that, rejuvenates him a little bit. But the Red Wings also, this is a team now. Dylan Larkin has missed the playoffs. He's played 1 year in the playoffs, I think, in his career, probably his first season. This is a team that has been so good for so long and that now has been so mediocre for so long. And they just feel like the team that's more ready for the next step.
I think they're still mediocre. I'm sorry, I do. Like I
don't think Buffalo did anything this summer to make their group better than last year.
I think they did most of their work at the deadline. That Bowen Byram deal.
Bowen Byram is sick. That was a great deal, and he was great in Buffalo last year. He's sick.
And he seems like he wants to be there, which is half the battle. And they've got cap space and they've got flexibility. Like, to me, I think they made themselves better. I do.
All right.
Well, I think they took a bigger stride than Detroit did.
We can make a little friendly bet on that one, me and you, Detroit versus Buffalo this year for a dinner.
Do you think that their offense is going to be as bad last year as it was? Like, compare that to 2 years ago. Yep.
Buffalo's, I'm hoping not. I mean, I hope Tage Thompson comes back this year and scores 40 goals. But also, I know how much Jeff Skinner kind of meant in that room too, and not having him this year, I don't know if that's going to be like a huge drop off, but it's certainly going to be an effect, and it's an impactful loss, I would say.
I'm still not entirely understanding that buyout.
Yeah.
Like if you're saying, or if Tage Thompson is saying that Jeff Skinner was huge in that locker room, what was the need to do that?
Yeah. Beats me. I don't think anyone really knows, to be honest.
Still don't get it.
Yeah, they haven't used that money for anything really either.
Well, yeah, they've got like the third most cap space in the league, and Skinner, regardless of whatever you think in relation to the cap hit, he still scored 24 goals last year, and the 2 previous years beyond that had 35 and 33. This is a team that felt like they were, I don't have the numbers in front of me, in the bottom 10 in scoring. They need more goals, not less.
Yeah, 1,000%.
So what was the need to execute the buyout?
I think everyone's asking the same exact question. I don't know if anyone has the right answer for that one, even especially Sabres fans. I'm pretty sure Skinner would love there.
Here's the next question.
Yeah.
Buffalo, Detroit, where does Ottawa factor in for you?
I mean, Ottawa was my biggest disappointment last season. I thought they were going to make the playoffs last year.
Yeah, I've been an Ottawa believer for a few years. Like, I think the pieces that they have in place, they really feel like they're something, but will Ullmark solve their goaltending problem? I mean,
here's my thing, though. No matter what, I think 5 teams are coming out of the Atlantic and 3 are coming out of the Met. It's just a matter of which 5 teams those are. Like, if there's one team that, would be a sneaky team to miss the playoffs for me.
Tampa?
Yeah.
They're
But I
not
feel
really
like
sneaky.
I
mean,
I
they've
don't think
gone
that's
the wrong
a
direction.
what's up?
It's not really a sneaky pick. They've gone in the wrong direction.
Yeah, but I
And the
wouldn't
big
say that's
question,
like
it's so I've been thinking a lot about, am I ready to say that the Lightning are going to miss? And
Mhm.
then I'm like, yeah, Stamkos is gone, but Jake Gensel
still
isn't.
Gensel. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they still have Andrei Vasilevsky in net. They still have a strong D-core, but they lost Sergachev. You know, there are still things on their back end, but they get Brian McDonough back. I mean, they're still a very good team. You know, I'm not confident in saying that. That was just
But
my
the time is coming, though.
yeah.
If it's this year, if it's not this year, then it's going to be the following year. I think that
Mhm.
that's a team that misses.
Yeah, also 1,000%. And I want to rewind and say that the Devils are by far the team that everyone should be saying should make the playoffs this year.
I think the Devils win the
Yeah.
Metro.
You think they win the Metro?
Yeah. In the
I don't-
regular season.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now Carolina, the Rangers, and the Devils all have the same exact odds to win the division. So I don't think it's so far fetched.
Look
But
at that.
no, yeah,
What a great Bet365 plug. I'm going to say that the most disappointing team in the regular, I think the Carolina Hurricanes got somewhere between 5 to 8 points worse.
which is still, you know, they'll still make the playoffs. You still have them in the top 3 in the Met, right? With that,
Yeah, I have them third.
okay.
I've got Devils,
Rangers,
Canes.
Carolina.
Yep. And then fourth, I have Wash.
Okay, so that
I
brings
think
me.
the Caps are massively improved.
So
another team that reinvented its defense.
we're gonna do our Metropolitan Division preview in the next week or so here, probably, you know, once we start going live again, October 1st. But that was the next topic I wanted to get into with you because Islander fans right now are asking a lot of questions.
They
What
should
happened
be.
to, what happened to Ilya Sorokin? When did the surgery happen? How much will it impact him? But it seems like he'll be healthy for the start of the season from everything that we've heard. How significant was this back surgery and how much do you think it'll set him back?
It's first off, it's the Islanders. So again, I put them in
You
the
don't hear anything?
category of
Yeah.
only God and Lou know, because
Mhm.
that's it. So there's no details on the severity or significance of it. He's quite clearly a huge part of their team. I think the tougher part for me is understanding how Patrick Waugh feels about their goaltending, because we did see quite a lot of workload that didn't go Sorokin's way.
Yeah.
So that is one question, but the bigger overarching question for me with the Islanders is, what are they doing to get better?
I mean, I've said this all summer. I actually think it would benefit the Islanders more to miss the playoffs than it would to make the playoffs.
Well,
I think they need a reason to restructure everything, and continuing to make the playoffs and losing in the first round does not help them do that.
I think it feels to me like that seems to be a goal that they're perfectly comfortable with.
Just
If
making
not,
the
we would have
playoffs.
seen, just be competitive, make the playoffs. Hey, congratulations, slap everyone on the back. Good year.
Yeah.
Just be in the mix. Just don't be. I think their goal, after being, probably for a huge chunk of your life, don't be terrible.
Yeah.
Right.
I will say though, that first line of Duclair, Horvat, and Barzal, I think they will be a very fun line to watch. I mean, they have speed, they have skill, they have Horvat who can score. Hopefully Barzal shoots the puck a little bit more this year. That's going to be a fun line to watch this year. But after that, can you really trust the next 3 lines to produce?
I can't. I just think they're the definition of mid.
I agree. The Minnesota Wild of the East.
Yep. I think they're there, and they have no chance to be in the bottom 10, and they have really no chance to be in the top 10, and they're just kind of there.
So do you think, just with goaltending to kind of round that one out, do you think we'll see more of a split this year, or do you think at some point Sorokin does take that number 1 job?
No, it's got to be Sorokin has to be the guy. Has to be the guy. But again, you're dealing with your head coach being one of the best goaltenders of all time. He's clearly going to have a lot of say on what that looks like. And I'd be real curious to see what he thinks an ideal split looks like in his own mind, especially as someone who played a ton.
Mm-hmm. Next topic quickly. And again, I want to thank you for your time. Don't want to keep you too long today. Also, I want to note that we actually do have an interview with Tony Granato coming up, which Colby and I were both on. We recorded that 2 weeks ago. It's a really fun interview. One of the nicest guys in the world. So excuse me, stay tuned for that when Frank does hop off here. But two more things for you here. The next one, just James Van Riemsdyk signing that 1 year, $950K deal in Columbus. I don't want to talk too much on it because I know that's Colby's boy, and I want to wait for Colby to be back to talk about that. But I see the Gaudreau nameplate behind you and how much it meant to him to sign in Columbus, talking about the brotherhood of the NHL world, of the hockey world, and your expectations for James Van Riemsdyk, because he's still a guy that can score, 25 plus goals, I think, in this league around the net front, one of the best to do it. Maybe that's a stretch, but with Columbus this year, obviously there's going to be a lot of emotion. What are you looking for from James Van Riemsdyk with the Blue Jackets?
Just consistency. It's probably not going to be 25, but somewhere between 15 and 20. And look, last year in Boston, he was one of the best point per dollar values in the league. I think he was in the top 5 for guys that weren't on entry-level deals. I don't know or understand why he lingered so long on the open market. He was never looking for a big payday. Was someone that wanted to try and go to a team that had a chance to contend. I think in the last 2 to 3 weeks, I'm trying to think of some of the teams that had been in the mix for James Van Riemsdyk. It was something like Toronto, Detroit, Calgary, Columbus.
I was surprised the Rangers weren't in it.
Columbus was there. Yeah, I mean, especially for someone that grew up a Ranger fan.
Mm-hmm.
That would make a lot of sense. But he's never really been fast. And I think because people look at some of the game tape, they're like, oh, is this guy working? It's really just he's a little bit more of an upright skater. So he's got a little bit of the Kevin Hayes effect where people think that he might be slower and or lazier. He's never out of position. He's like the most coachable player in the league. And I'd say if you're ranking all 700 NHL players on fitness and the way they take care of their body, James Van Riemsdyk's in the top 30. So
that's something Colby's always said, is that he takes care of his body.
You're never going to have an issue where he's not ready to go. And so there's that consistency there where it's like, hey, this guy shows up ready to play. He's a no maintenance vet to add to your team. For Columbus, who sadly enough, after Johnny Gaudreau's passing, were under the salary cap floor and had some money to spend. Like, he's the perfect guy to bring in, especially because he knew John, the same New Jersey, some of the same New Jersey hockey circles. It's a really nice fit.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure obviously his voice will help in that room too, with a very difficult year to navigate, I imagine, for a lot of the young guys that looked up to Johnny Gaudreau last year and whatnot. Still curious to see how the league is going to go about that with like opening night, maybe their tributes and how it goes the full. I mean, it's not going to be a one night thing, right?
No, and that's why that jersey I have behind me is going to be there all year. Just maybe forever. Just
That's nice. All right, so tough transition, but I want to implement a new segment into our show that Colby actually gives me a lot of shit for when I ask a fun question, but it's something that I love doing. So this is the Fountain Tire Fun One. And I'm going to kick it over to Vic.
I want to ask you a fun one.
That's our little Colby plug, because that's how he mocks me every time I bring it up. But
it's well-deserved, by the way.
It is well-deserved, of course. And I warrant it, and I wear it, and I own it. But we talked about it right when you got on the show, Sidney Crosby signing that deal for 8.7 per. Does that now incentivize McDavid and Bedard to sign their next contract at 9.7 and 9.8 respectively?
I guess if you're going to work the jersey number in, then do it on the last 2 digits.
But those are discounts also.
I'm saying, like, make it, if McDavid's next contract starts with a 16, make it 16,000,00097.
Okay.
If that's what you feel the need to do. I don't quite understand the jersey thing. Maybe the numerology is different with Sid because he's born on 8/7/87.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's just everything in his world. I don't know. But
in seriousness, McDavid and Bedard, are the 2 future faces of the league. Because I still think Sid really is. And
you could say to me, McDavid, $97 million a year.
But no, I want to actually make this a serious question though, because
no, you can't do that. This is the fun one.
but the fun one you already answered. So now it's like, you reel it back in, make it a conversation. And, these guys look up to Sid so much. And Sid truly only does care about winning. And so does McDavid and so does Bedard. I mean, I've talked to these guys one-on-one, and you can really just tell, like, all they want to do is win a cup. And Bedard, I know, is only a year in. But does it put pressure on those two guys specifically to take that discount and do whatever they can to help their team win? It does. You don't think it does at all?
Not in the least. And I would suggest that
they don't.
As a whole, 4 players, the rest of the league's bargaining power was reduced by Sidney Crosby.
Okay. All right. Well, Frank, I appreciate your time. If there's anything that you want to say or plug before I let you go here, before training camp starts.
Back with our usual nonsense.
Yep.
Daily Faceoff Live starting in October, a couple weeks away, Monday to Friday, 12 noon Eastern. And until then, check out the DFO rundown. We just wrapped our Central Division preview yesterday. Soup to nuts. All 8 teams in the division. We did the Metro last week, so you can, if you enjoyed my shit takes on the Metro today, you can go back and listen to the full pod with Jason Greger last week. Hour and 20 minutes worth of Metro talk.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And I'll talk to you every week again, starting October 1. So I look forward to it.
Can't wait.
Thanks, Frank. That last question with Frank Seravalli was brought to you by our sponsor, Fountain Tire. Your family's safety is important, and Fountain Tire specializes in tire and auto service. You don't have to settle for a good deal or good customer service because they do both. They'll treat your vehicle like it's their vehicle, and if you need new tires or maybe your engine has a little rattle, stop into Fountain Tire and they'll sort you out. They have a great deal going on right now, so save up to 25% off select tires, including Goodyear, until October 10th. Plus, save another $50 or more on any service of over $150, and some restrictions will apply. So stop into Fountain Tire or make an appointment. Check out fountaintire.com. Colby and I had a chance to talk to Tony Granato, a USA Hockey Hall of Famer and a Hall of Fame guy, 2 weeks ago. It was a great interview, so hope you enjoy it. We're going to kick it over to that right now.
What an exciting opportunity Johnny and I have today to talk to a U.S. Hockey Hall of Famer and a guy that I refer to as part of the first family of USA Hockey. I mean, it's hard not to look at the Granado family and their impact on the, sport of hockey in America and not get excited about it. So we appreciate you. You're coming into the show. It's not quite summer anymore, but it's still nice weather, I'm sure, up in Madison. So we're getting your time, maybe get you off the golf course a little bit. And we're excited to have you today. Thanks for doing this.
A couple things. I really appreciate that introduction on the Granado family thing. I think that's a little bit embellished. And 2, it's not the golf course. It's the fishing. It's the lake behind me that I go on every day. So I fish. I don't golf like the rest of you guys.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure Osiki likes spending time with you because I know Mark's a big fisher too, right? Your old wingman at Wisconsin.
Yes, he is. So we do. We spend a lot of time. Madison's a beautiful place. The college campus is spectacular, but it's on 4 lakes. So we got 4 lakes. Joe Pavelski, who is the best at everything. He now has a house on the lake that I live on. He used to live on a different lake. So now all the fish go by Joe's house and by Joe's baits instead of ours because he's the best golfer, the best hockey player, and he wants to be the best fisherman. So he steals all the fish from us.
Well, look, I'm glad you kind of brought up Madison, Wisconsin, because it's kind of the first place I wanted to start with you because it's obviously such a big part of your identity in the game of hockey, right? And I'll just tell this story to people who are listening because if they don't know who you are or know about you, I've had the fortune of knowing you now since I'm 18 years old. And so, Tony was the coach at Wisconsin. He played at Wisconsin and everything. And, look, it's no secret. You weren't brought back, it ended there, but you still supported the program like you were, the head coach. You supported the new coaching staff. When I talked to the new head coach, he said how great you were and how gracious you were. The players still feel totally supported by you. And, having you have that egoless type of attitude is, I think, such a good way to start this conversation with you, Tony, because it just says so much about who you are as a guy and how you've operated in the game of hockey.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I did lose my job. I did have some conflicts with some people in the administration. that wasn't good. But as far as being a coach and being proud of the program and being part of the program, that never will leave me. I mean, like the reason I came back here is because this program gave me a chance to accomplish and to have so many great opportunities after I left here. It prepared me for all that. And I got that because of the university and the education part of it. I got it because of my coaches. I got it because of my teammates. The life experience I had here, set me up for other great experiences. So my job as a coach and as an alumni was to come back here and kind of show my appreciation, be back here to send that message and how important it was in my life, and hopefully be able to help others, when they're my age, look back and say, man, my experience at Wisconsin was definitely a positive one that helped me in so many different ways. So, there were different ways of looking at it when I got removed from my position. But at the end of the day, I'm proud of the university. I'm proud of the kids that I was able to coach. I got one of them. You can see Trent Frederick over my right shoulder behind me. I've been able to coach so many great kids, and not just because they're great hockey players. The kids we brought in here because we wanted them part of our community. We wanted them part of our family. And so I still feel that way about all the guys. I still feel that way about the program. I'm a little bit removed. I don't have quite as much touches with the program as I'd like. But at the end of the day, the old saying of once a Badger, always a Badger, I have to feel that way, live that out, and kind of preach or kind of follow what I preach with all of our guys that were here that I coached and was fortunate enough to be able to be part of their lives.
My dad actually took me to see the University of Wisconsin when we played in the Chicago Bauer tournament, I think, like in 10th grade. And as soon as I stepped foot on that campus, it was like my dream school right away. I never got recruited or talked to any coaches there, but no, that campus was awesome.
It's our loss, not yours, Johnny. That's our loss.
Everyone knows I had a really good college hockey career, right, Colby? But I do want to ask about one specific player also, because you coached Cole Caulfield in his Hobie Baker year. And, recently Cole changes his number from 22 to 13 to honor Johnny Gaudreau. And I've met Cole a couple times, and he's honestly one of like the sweetest people I've ever met in my life. And, I think NHL fans right now are waiting for that Cole Caulfield like breakout year. Right. I've seen the joke though, like Cole Caulfield's the best 40 goal scorer to never score 30. Which is pretty funny, but I'm kind of curious from you just what it was like being around him in that season. And I know it was COVID also, so it's got to be a pretty wild year for you and him.
The one thing I think as you get older, you appreciate the players and the skill and the kids in a different way than you would as you were a player or a young coach that's going, okay, I gotta establish myself as a coach. I gotta do this. No, what you learn when you get older is you learn to appreciate the opportunity to work with special people, special players that you're always going to admire and love for lots of reasons. And Cole, you said the example, you met him and he's just electrifying. His smile and his energy is like, okay, I got more energy because
singing too. Yeah, he sings.
Well, he never sang in front of me. But he's just one of those kids that, from the day I met him, I was lucky because when I got here, he was a commit to Ohio State, and he's a Wisconsin kid. And as soon as we got here, his agent reached out and said, hey, he's going to, get him. I don't even know if it was called a portal back then, but he is going to definitely decommit and be available. And I said, well, when he is, make sure you know we'd be interested. And sure enough, not long after that, him and his brother both committed. And he gave us 2 phenomenal years. Like you said, the Hobie Baker, we won the Big Ten that year. We were really close to being, a team that could have competed for a national championship. And I just loved watching his development, and I learned from him. And every day I went to the rink, I smiled because he was smiling and happy to be there. And that's the part, as an older player, and I'll refer back to when I was playing. I'm in San Jose. Patrick Marleau comes in, and I'm this older guy that's a veteran player, and he's just trying to hang on. This young kid comes in, and all of a sudden he's flying around the rink. Guess what? I can fly around the rink again and chase him around. And those young players are so inject so much energy and life into older veteran players. That's why I think if you look at the success of lots of NHL teams and lots of players that see that and recognize it and appreciate it. Listen, Cole Caulfield's going to take lots of people's jobs. So when he gets into the Canadian lineup, he's taking Gallagher's power play time. He's taking somebody else's first line spot on the other. But when you get a kid that comes in that's supplying energy and excitement for you as an older player, embrace that and hand off your position or your power play ice time to him, because he's going to help your team and make your life more enjoyable. And that's what I kind of learned when I went to San Jose and I had young players. I had Friesen and Marlowe and a few other young Marco Sturm. That became my job. And I think that really helped me in my transition to going into coaching, is just to recognize that, hey, younger players are going to be better to you. They're going to be faster than you. They're going to have more energy than you at time, but try to be like them. And I kind of felt that was a great message for me and everything I do and have done since. I'm 60 years old now, but when I'm around a young kid, I feel like I'm a young kid again. and that's what Cole brings. So we're talking about Cole, not me. That's what Cole brings to the locker room. Mm-hmm. That's what he brings to the NHL. And just that little thing that he did immediately without anybody telling him to do it. I'm changing my number. I'm 13.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I text him with just a heart and a prayer thing. And I said, I'm so proud of you. And he texted me right back because, again, he gets it. He understands life. He understands the big picture. He understands that we're hockey players. We're human beings. There's friendships and things in life that are way more important than the game of hockey. And so I'm so proud of the kid. I can't wait to watch him. He is going to explode. And I don't know if it's chemistry of what he's got with a couple of those players and what they're adding to that lineup. It's a matter of time where he's going to be a guy that fans are going to, not just in Montreal, but when Cole shows up in the different cities, they're going to go to watch Cole Coffey.
It's amazing to hear the energy in your voice when you talk about him. And look, it's the same energy that you brought the first time I ever met you, which was at development camp in the middle of July. After I was drafted, you were the head coach in Colorado.
Remember that.
And it's like you brought this energy to that camp. And it sort of made everybody take a sigh of relief, because you know how young 18-year-old, 19-year-old kids are at those development camps. They're nervous. You feel uptight. You don't want to step out of line. And here you come with this positive attitude, sort of this super, positive outlook on everything, fun, smiling. And I remember it. I can remember moments from those development camps. And so it's funny to hear you talk about that. And I'll go further to when, you were at Wisconsin and, my job started between the benches. I had never worked between the benches before, Johnny. And we had 2 regular season games, back-to-back weekends at Wisconsin. Tony's the head coach. And they didn't realize when they put me there that Wisconsin didn't have a between the bench spot. They didn't have it. And
so first row?
He was right there with us. He was telling me who to put on the ice. It was awesome.
Doing the door?
I'm telling you, Johnny, I don't get the chance to become the third man on the number 1 broadcast team for college hockey with Barry and Butchie if Tony doesn't agree to let me do between the benches on their bench. He says, no problem. Just make, and no other coach in college hockey says yes to that. Nobody else. I guarantee it. I'm telling you right now, nobody else agrees to that. Okay, well, David Quinn would have said no.
We're going to talk to all of them and say, hey, you're going to have to loosen up and understand what our game's all about.
Carv would never let that slide.
My own college coaches would have said no to that, but he says yes. It goes well, and that was my first year doing the Frozen.
Did we win the games, Colby? That's what I want to know.
We were 1-1. 1-1.
Yeah, I was hoping we were 2-0.
But I watched you on the bench. I was on the bench with you and those guys, Cole included, and everything you just said about him, I got to witness it as a third party. And we'd come sit with you in the dressing room before the game, after game skate, and just the enthusiasm pouring out of you. We would leave there. Butchie and I would leave those, hangouts with you, and I'd be like, geez, maybe I should have gone to Wisconsin. It just that was the energy. So. I know there's no question, but I'm remembering these things as you're talking about them, Tony. And honestly, in small, subtle ways, even though you never ended up coaching me, you impacted my hockey career and my TV career in so many different ways that you probably have no idea, but it's true. These things were huge milestones for me in what I've done.
Well, I appreciate those nice comments again. I don't think this is a Tony Granato show for trying to pat Tony Granato on the back. I think it's a show to share some stories about the players and the people in the game that make it so special. that I've been influenced by. We got Crosby and Frederick behind me. Who's the next? Who's asking me about either of those guys?
Well, Barry Melrose is really
We're definitely talking about Barry for sure.
I need your best moment you ever had with Barry when Barry was coaching you in LA, because when I look at those teams and it's like Robitaille, Gary Curry, Gretzky, you, Blake, Coffey, Sandstrom. I mean, it's like an all-star team, and then you got Barry Melrose.
But Barry was one that understood the dynamics of our locker room, because like you said, all those different personalities in one room could lead to different things. But he was able to gel us together, give us confidence, and really, probably the most enjoyable year that I've had in hockey, because, at the start of Barry's first year, I don't know if you guys knew this, but Wayne hurt his back and was supposed to be a career-ending injury. So Barry comes in, he goes, "Oh gosh, you got the greatest player in the world." No, you don't. I think it was the first week of training camp. His back, the bulging disc in his back, became a major issue. The first meeting we had as captains and as older veteran players was with Bruce McNall and Barry, and they said, "Guys, we got some news for you. Gretz just got the results of what his back scan was, and he's gone. He's not going to play this year and maybe never again." And so Barry got that card right out of the gate. And the ability for him to have us focus on basically saying to all of us and putting on us to say, "You guys got an opportunity here. The greatest player in the game is still part of our team. And if he ever can come back, let's make him proud, and let's have him come back to a situation that he's dying to get back into." So just a simple conversation like that meant so much. And we had a great start to the year. And sure enough, by January, Gretz was skating, jumped back in the lineup. And that's the year we made that run where we almost won the Cup. And I can tell you that Barry influenced me in a ton of positive ways. He still does. We're still able to text back and forth. I talk to him every few weeks just to check in. But his enthusiasm, his energy, his very black and white, straightforward, "Tony, this is what I need you to do. If you do it, I'll play the shit out of you. If you don't do it, you're not playing." Okay, it's pretty simple. And I would have went through the wall for him. And I hopefully he thinks I did, because I would have done it. And he was and always will be a coach that I will have been grateful for playing for. And everything I do with the game of hockey, I'll think of what Barry would have done or said to me.
I might be wrong, but that 93 year, the year you guys go to the Cup final, wasn't there like a, again, I'm a 96 birth year. So
okay, yeah,
my history might not be the best, but wasn't there like an issue with like an illegal curve or something?
Oh my gosh, yes, there was.
So I don't really know the story, but like,
okay,
every time I hear that,
I want to give you a quick update on exactly what happened. So we, Colby mentioned all our skill that we had on our team. We were older though. We were a really old team, but we had a great run. We're playing Toronto in Game 7 in Maple Leaf Garden. The winner of the Kings and Maple Leafs go to play the Canadiens in the Stanley Cup Finals. Gretz has the hat-trick game, so you should know about that. Don't just know about the curse stick. There was Gretz's maybe greatest game ever was Game 7 in Maple Leaf Garden, when every media person said Gretz is slowing down. He's lost it. He doesn't have it anymore. And I was in the elevator with him, and he's told this story. The guy that was in the elevator with us didn't know we were Kings. I don't know how a guy in Toronto didn't know who Wayne Gretzky was. And he made a comment, "It's going to be exciting around here. The Leafs are going to go to the Stanley Cup Finals." And I don't know what Gretz said. I don't know if he just looked at him and shook his head, or if he said, "I don't think they're going to do that." And just with the conviction of me as a teammate on recognizing and knowing when Wayne says something, or you can read his mind on what's going to happen, it happens.
That was his Messier guarantee right there in the elevator.
But he did it in a subtle way that only Wayne could do it in. Mm-hmm. And to me, I was fortunate enough to play with him for six plus years. I saw some unbelievable things on the ice. That performance that night to get us to the finals was spectacular. So let's jump ahead to Montreal. Mm-hmm. We get to Montreal. We win Game 1. We play great. We're winning Game 2, 2-1. We're in complete control of the series. We're up 1-0 in the series, and we're up 2-1 in the game. Minute 20 to go in the game. They call a stick measurement on Marty McSorley's stick. Sure enough, they go to the box. They measure it with the old, machine, whatever it is.
And
cool. Sure enough, it's illegal. We go shorthanded. Riemsdyk gets his second goal of the game with 30 seconds to go, maybe to tie it. And then Riemsdyk scored again in overtime. They beat us 3-2. We're tied 1-1. We go back to LA. So we lost that game in overtime. We lost the next 2 games in overtime, games we felt like we played so darn well. And at the end, you know what it's like. And at the end of a game, you're like, gosh, how did we lose that game? We played so good. And we lost both those games and then in overtime. So we lost 3 games in a row in overtime, then went back to Montreal, lost there. So it wasn't the curse stick's fault. It was one of those situations where, it may have changed the momentum for that time. But Marty McSorley was a player that we don't get to the finals. We don't get in that position without Marty's performance. So he was a big part of it and a great teammate. And, it was meant to be Montreal's year, and we were a little bit short.
It's just crazy to think about Kobe. Sorry to jump on, but growing up for me, I can only think about I remember Yager once had his curve checked, but that was nothing.
Solani once
like that in my childhood. To think about that happening in the Stanley Cup final, and there are 18-year-old kids now who probably have no idea that they used to.
Patrick Waugh got his checked. Teemu Solani got his checked. There's been a few. At that time, it was really frowned upon for other coaches to use that tactic. If you checked the stick at one point, you didn't get a penalty for it. So you could say, I want to check that guy's stick. They check it. It's legal. You didn't get penalized if it was legal. So they changed that rule for a little while where it became a minor penalty if you did check the stick. So it was frowned upon. There were lots of rumors that, unfortunately, when you leave a dressing room after a morning skate, your sticks are in that room. They could be checked by anyone in the other organization because all your sticks are there. So there was kind of a gentleman's I think, agreement that you just don't do things like that. But in Montreal's case, they did it. They won. And, I don't think there's anybody, at least I'm not in a position to say I'm bitter and think that was a tactic that they shouldn't have used. They wanted to use it. They used it. It was part of the game. And I will always say this about that team. We didn't win a championship, but we were champions. I think every guy in that room, every coach in that room, trainers, whatever, that season was a championship season. We don't have a Stanley Cup ring, but we have each other's love and support of one another and know what we gave to each other to have a pretty special year.
Yeah, and you played on both coasts in sort of the prime time. And I know LA became prime time with Gretz and everything like this, but, we're talking about Barry and that season and everything. And Barry's told me stories about the celebrities that were wanting to come in the locker room and be around. You go from New York, which is the Big Apple. This is where the celebrities hang, New York, LA. So who is the, maybe craziest is the rough, but the biggest star that ever walked into one of the locker rooms when you were in New York or LA and you were like, oh my God, that's Sylvester Stallone or what? Whatever.
Well, Stallone was one of them, but you'll laugh at this one. I think it was Nancy Reagan for me. I got to be honest with you. I was overwhelmed. First of all, Ron was getting older and he was somewhat losing his ability to really communicate and be in a social environment. And she held his hand. She took him around the room. She introduced him to all of us. I got a picture with both of them that I cherish. I thought just how she handled Ron, I should say President Reagan at the time, and just it was really a special thing. But all those celebrities, John Candy was one that was around our team.
Oh, wow.
He acted in character all the time, so he couldn't be, just talk to you in a normal thing. He was in character, funny as could be. In fact, in one of our games in Toronto, if you remember Game 7. The old bench in Maple Leaf Garden, you guys probably don't know this, you're too young. Old bench in Maple Leaf Garden, the seat next to the last part of the bench was a spectator seat, a ticket paid seat. So we had those 2 seats that night. We gave the seats to John Candy. John Candy actually would open the door for the players to get on and off the ice. And so he was sitting on the bench and he had pregame meal with us. He would order his whatever his steak was that he ate, and was it the Great Outdoors or whatever when he ate that big steak for a T-shirt. Mm-hmm. He had the waitresses. The waitresses were all confused when he was trying to order whatever steak that was. We were in that era. The great part of what Gretz did for hockey. he brought those people to appreciate our game and our athletes, and all of those Hollywood stars, they couldn't get enough of being around Wayne Gretzky. They thought that was the coolest thing in the world. So our game benefited from it. And when you get 17,000 people or whatever the old LA Forum sat at games, and you see all those Hollywood people there, guess what? Anaheim wanted a team. San Jose wanted a team. Florida wants teams. Texas wants teams. So our growth of our sport was directly 100% related to Wayne Gretzky going to LA and making a warm city become a hockey spectacle. And, the 80 Olympic team did a ton. Gretzky's move to California was the second and needed jump to make American hockey become great. So even though he's Canadian, he's now, I think he's dual. Is Gretz dual now? Please tell me he is. I think he is.
No idea.
You got to think.
Well, he's got American kids and American wife. So
you got to think he's a dual citizen. Yeah,
I would think so.
We're going to call him American today. Gretz, if you're watching and you're not American, send me a text. And
he's a loyal listener to the show, so I'm sure he's watching.
Yes, if there's something going on with hockey, if you don't think he's listening, I guarantee you he is. Another example about Wayne Gretzky. Can I keep talking?
Yeah.
I'm dying for a follow-up here, though, but yes.
Okay, in the 2018 Olympics, Colby, you remember this, and Johnny, you remember this. We didn't have the NHL players. It's the first year in 5 or 6 Olympics where it's not Patrick Kane, Joe Pavelski. It's not our superstars of our game. We're going to go back to amateurs. No NHL players, no one under contract can play. We put together this team. We pieced together this team from players playing in Europe, a few guys that were on minor league contracts, and some college kids. We go over. We have a great showing. Nobody knows how great the American team was that year. We were great. I'm on the bench with Chelios, Keith Elaine, Scotty Young, Ronnie Rolston. Those are our coaches. Our games are going in the middle of the night because we're playing over in Pyeongchang.
Pyeongchang is where we were. Yeah. Yep.
The games, you'll know this story. So the games are going on. And I would get texts from Gretz. Man, I love your team. Fun to watch. Whatever. And I'm thinking, he's watching these games. It's 4 a.m. where he's at. And I get him right after the games. The game ends. We lose in a shootout. Okay. If we win this game in a shootout, we advance, and we are one of 4 teams left in the Olympics. We could have become, a sensational story overnight. Oh my gosh, this Olympic kids, no names, bunch of no names, basically with Brian Gianta. Brian Gianta was our one guy that kind of retired and jumped onto our roster. So we got one great leader and a bunch of, I'm sorry for calling them no names. They were no names.
Yeah.
The goalie was a Mercier's guy, wasn't he? Zapowski?
Yeah. Zapper.
Thank you.
Yeah. He came to one of our practices.
Yeah. Ryan Zapolsky. Exactly. Okay. So he's our goalie. Did you know Ryan Zapolsky before the Olympics?
I'm his coach. No, he's a KHL guy. Yeah. So anyhow, the story is, we lose. It's the most heartbreaking thing. If you remember, Gretz lost in the Olympics in 98. Remember, they lost, and they didn't use Gretz as a shooter in the shootout. They used Fleury and McInnes and all these other, and he didn't go. And Dominik Hasek beat him, and they get eliminated from the Olympics, and he was crushed. Well, guess what? We lose in the shootout, don't advance to the 4. I'm on my way off the ice. I get to the locker room. I pick up my phone. Wayne Gretzky calling. Not texting, calling. I can't answer because I got the media right there. I got all the players there. I go out in the hallway and I do it by myself, secret. And he's on the phone. And at the California time, it's 6 or 7 in the morning. Watched the entire game. Said, I absolutely loved everything about your team. I feel horrible that you guys are in advance. And you guys made America so proud. I'm so proud of what you guys just did. And I'm crying on the phone going, oh, my gosh. Gretz, I said, can you please text me what you just said? And I'm showing our players because they're crushed right now. They thought maybe we could pull this off. Yeah. So he texts me. We get on the bus after. I pass my phone around to every player on the team to see what Wayne said, how proud he was. It was incredible. So again, I can't say enough about my experience playing with Wayne Gretzky, but he has done that multiple times to multiple people in this world to know what to say and when to say it and how to say it to make everybody's life better. And he's the perfect example. And then the other guy behind it, 87 right there, he has followed that lead. Yeah. And Sid has become the guy that understands everything that needs to be said, when it needs to be said, when it needs to be done. So we've been so blessed. Before that, it was Gordie Howe, it was Maurice Richard.
we've been so blessed. Probably going to be Connor Bedard. Connor McDavid's probably starting to feel the pressure of having to live up to that too. That's what our game is so special, because our best players are the greatest ambassadors and the guys that all of us as players around them, we can't be envious and jealous and say, oh, I wish I was there. No, they are who they are because of what they do and what they bring to the game. And that's, I think that's just trickle down effect to helping all of us become better people more than we are better players.
And Johnny, before you ask your follow-up, I was in Pyeongchang. I was working for NBC, and it's funny, like, we had a bunch of beers that night. We were in that.
I didn't. I don't drink. You did, and Shelly did.
Well, we
you
all,
and Shelly.
Not you.
I remember. I got pictures with you in that with my kids.
Yeah, we were all there. Scotty Young was there. I mean, everybody was there. And you showed me that text message, like from Gretz, like, and it was like, wow, like, this is incredible. Like, this guy, I mean,
he'll be mad at me for sharing that story because he doesn't need any sort of credit or any. He wants to be the guy that does things quietly, but I don't care, Gretz. I'm going to brag about you for as long as I live, because what you gave me for enjoyment and excitement will last forever. And if I can share these stories and make other people understand really who he is and what he meant to all of us that have been fortunate enough to play the game or have touches with him, he's surpassed everybody's expectation of what that should be.
Colby, you know exactly what I'm going to ask, right?
Go ahead.
Do you see it on my face? Okay. So it was funny because we were talking before the show, like, every now and then I ask a pretty dumb question, but because you said John Candy, I have to ask it. And I was going to bite my tongue and not ask it.
Okay.
So you played in the 88 Olympics in Calgary, and one of my favorite movies of all time is Cool Runnings, which is based on the 88 Olympics. You mentioned John Candy.
What was it?
The Jamaican bobsled team.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was just wondering if there was like any talk of the movie or filming of the movie at the Olympics. And because you mentioned John Candy, I feel like I have to ask it.
No, but the thing, like he did, like I said, he was always in character. So he always had a beer in his hand and always had ketchup on his shirt or whatever. He just had like 6 hot dogs. Like he didn't, I don't think he felt comfortable being out of character. And so when he was around us, man, was he on his A game. His lines, I'll give you one thing. So he was a voiceover for a Disney movie called Rescuers Down Under. My kid's favorite movie in the world. He watched it every day. And he's Wilbur, the plane that flies around, and he's the voice.
His voice is iconic.
Iconic. So my kid's 2 years old, maybe 2.5. He picks him up and he's flying him around the locker room and he's giving him the Wilbur lines from the movie. My kid's turning around thinking that Wilbur, that like he's in the room somehow. And my kid was like, his eyes were like, and he's looking at John Candy. I got a picture with those two together as well. So that's the part of John Candy that was, it was just as funny in person. And I think that was probably part of why it's so hard to be one of those comedians and those people that live that lifestyle, is you feel you can't ever get out of character. So maybe you do have to drink too much. Maybe you do have to have that, personality of always being on your game. And that's a lot to live up to, but we had some special times just, listening to him, but he was my favorite actor too.
Yeah,
so that was certainly one of the perks of playing in LA at that time, was having opportunities to meet guys like that.
How was that experience in the the Olympics there in '88? I mean, it's not far off the miracle. The Soviet team, I looked up the scores to that actually, and 7-5 against the Soviets, 7-5 against the Czech.
Empty netters. Both of them.
Games. They're 1-goal games basically.
Yeah.
So what do you remember about that Olympics that in '88? You had a lot of points, by the way. You had you had more than a point a game.
Well, what we had is we had a great team. We were close. Things didn't go our way in a couple of the games that we could have went. Brian Leach hit the post in that game. Brian Leach, think about that. He's one of the best defensemen of all time. Was 19. I think he was still 19 that year. We were down 5-2 against 6-2 against the Russians going in the third period. Okay, we scored 3 goals. Russians, honestly, they didn't touch the puck that period. We scored 3, made it 6-5. And Brian, it's an unbelievable game. Greatest game I ever played it. Brian Leach comes top of the slot, beats a guy, takes a wrister off the crossbar with maybe 2.5 minutes to go. Doesn't go in for us. Boom. We get another chance. Nothing happens. Faceoff turns around and throws a puck, shoots it over the head of our defenseman. It's probably Leachy or Youngie on the ice. Goes into an empty net. We lose 7-5. But we win that game. Obviously, we were close to being, but there was a lot of pressure. It was our first Olympics back in, our country. It wasn't in our country. It was in Canada, but back on our continent.
Yeah.
Is that a continent? Are we in the same continent as
Canada?
Canada?
Yeah.
Okay. Same continent. So it was the same time zone. And we were built up. They were like, okay, Ruzioni, Johnson, Jim Craig. We got all these guys in the locker room. This American team's got a chance to repeat. And that was a lot of pressure for, 18 to 23-year-old or 22-year-old kids. We had a phenomenal team. We were close. But, a couple things didn't go our way. But again,
that team.
Dave Peterson.
Okay.
Dave Peterson. He had 2 Olympics in a row. He had the 98 team, and then he had the 88 team, and then the 92 team as well. And again, we had great players. We just were a little bit short.
Yeah. One of those players I want to ask about, and I know we gave you the flowers and everything before. This is the Tony Granato story time. I don't know if you've told this story. I'm sure you probably have, but I know you were teammates and friends with Pierre Laviolette.
Yes.
So you know exactly where I'm going.
I know where it's going. He was in our wedding too. So yes.
That's even better. I didn't know that. Wow.
When this screaming match happens in 2012, Flyers Penguins, big time rivalry, and I think you're defending.
The best part of it is Pierre. Pierre doesn't know what to do down there. He's listening.
And I think
going like, what do I say? What do I do?
He's probably just making sure the mic isn't picking it all up. But
that would have been a good thing. I know what I was saying.
Yeah. So
and I know what Pete was saying too.
But my question for this is, after the game, do you guys call each other and talk about it, or is it just something that it happened, that's it, we move on, we're friends? What happens after that?
The second one, because we were playing in the playoffs a week later. The funny part about this, Dan had no idea with my relationship with Peter, and I'll tell you, just let me prep on how this whole thing happened. So we're going to play Philly in the playoffs, no matter what happens in this game. 3 days or 4 days later, it's the 81st game of the season. I think we have one more game left, and Philly wins this game. They score a goal with about 2.5 minutes to go to clinch it. They're up by 2 goals. We put Joe Vitale and a couple other, third or fourth line guys. We're not going to put Sid and Gino out there now. We basically waved the flag. We're going to lose this one. And he puts Briere on the ice. So Joe Vitale, who's a hard-nosed kid.
I played against him a lot. He's very hard-nosed.
And he's a great kid. He would never do anything, that wasn't appropriate, and he didn't do anything inappropriate. Briere gets the puck, Joe, bam, gets a good chance to hit him, puts his shoulder into him. All hell breaks loose on the ice. Everybody's, screaming, whatever. And Peter's pissed that we put Vitale on the ice, right? So he gets up on the bench. He's screaming at Dan. He's just saying what it looks like he's saying. It wasn't a PG version by any means of what Pete's screaming at our bench. And I see it, and I'm standing right there, and I'm watching Dan to see if Dan's going to go. And I'm thinking, Dan, come on, Dan. I was going to give him a little nudge to go, and he doesn't go. So I said, heck, I got to go up there. I got to stand up for the guys. So I did it once before. I did it versus Babcock when I was in Colorado and Detroit. So I know, this is the thing I know. When you stand on that bench, I know that bench sometimes isn't locked in because it's just the board in between. So when you go over, you got to hang on to something because you don't want to go down as a coach and either land on the ice or towards the bench. So I had my balance. I got up there, and I'm just telling Pete, sit down, Pete. Sit down, Pete. Because, like you said, I know him. He's in my wedding.
Yeah.
Great friends. We played together on the Olympics. We played together in the minors, and we played together with the Rangers. And I understood why he was upset. And I understood what his message was for his team. He's standing up for his players because we're playing them in the playoffs. And when I got nervous, it wasn't when I was arguing with Pete. When Berube stuck his head around,
that's what I was going to ask.
Around the thing and kind of peeked around, I wasn't going any farther, and I wasn't going to say anything more. I was just going to hold my ground. I'm not backing up, but I'm not going any far forward. And that's the part I remember most was, just the fact that the event that it happened. It was something that in the game of hockey happens every now and then. You stand up and do what's right for your team. He did what was right for his team. I thought I was doing what was right for our team. That's the only game I've ever been thrown out of, by the way. I get
really?
Yeah.
Is there also a part of it that like is an understanding that you are like putting on a show for fans as well, or in the playoffs is that not even a thought?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't a show for the fans. It was definitely both Pete trying to stand up for his team to say, hey, there's no way we're taking this. And it was from our side of things, there's no way we're going to back off. And there's no way you're going to point at our coach and think that that's going to be okay, or our bench. And so it's I think, again, nothing, and you guys know this, nothing in the game of hockey is for show. There's not one staged fight. There's not one thing that goes, that's all competitive juices, somebody trying to get an edge or somebody trying to defend a teammate or a team in that case. So I think that was more than that. But the funny part of this, I got to go to the second part of the story. So after the game, Dan somehow finds out that Peter was in my wedding. He goes, does the press conference. I'm sitting in the thing, and someone told me, he goes, Dan just found out. I said, who the hell told him that? Why would we tell Dan that right now? He doesn't need to know it. So he comes back and he goes, he wasn't in your wedding, was he? And I go, yeah, he was actually. So anyhow, fast forward another month and a half. We're having a party at my house for all the coaches and staff. We can't find Dan. Where the heck did Dan go? He's going around my house looking for wedding pictures, and he found one. And he comes down with it, and he sees Peter in the picture. Okay, so Pete's in that picture. He looks at me and I said, hey, Dan, I'm telling you, you'd love this guy. He's a great guy. Hey, it happens. Game of hockey. You've fought nice guys and been competitive with others that you would think they were a heck of a nice guys. He's a heck of a nice guy. Fast forward this, a couple years later. Who's the coaching staff of the 2014 Olympic team? Dan Bylsma, Peter Laviolette, Todd Reardon, Tony Granato. So we were all reunited, and we told stories. We were roommates during that. We all roomed in the same dorm room / whatever it was at the Olympic Village together. So Pete and Dan definitely reconnected, and I think he appreciated and does appreciate Pete and understood why he would have been at my wedding. So there's the full story. You got to
And on top of it, now there has to be two pieces of glass now in every rink. They've got it on both sides
because of the coaches.
Oh my God!
Tony Granato.
That is the Tony Granato effect on.
I wanted to have something a change in the game because of me, and that's it. The glass is in between. Okay.
And Pierre will tell you, like they were like every time now there has to be between the benches just in case.
I thought it was to keep you guys that do the third man between the glass safe from any pucks that are iced and whatever. No,
I hear it the other way. I hear it's the Tony. I heard it's the Tony Granato effect on the broadcasting world. Which look, you're a part of that world now, and that's really kind of one of the last things I want to ask you about is what's that been like, and like how have you enjoyed that? Because one day all of a sudden you pop up, you're on NHL Network, you're doing Blackhawks now, which is awesome.
TNT.
I mean, fans love it. TNT. When you get a guy with your last name, like people want to listen, they want to know what you think. But how have you enjoyed it?
I always thought there was no better place to be than on a bench. I did. I was fortunate enough to play a long time, and I got a chance to coach. And I always felt like, gosh, you're right in the action. Even though you're not playing when you're a coach, you're in it. And I always thought I said, I'm going to miss it so much. I don't know if I'll ever be able to transition into something either in management or on the broadcasting side of things. And I was wrong. I absolutely loved it. And one of the reasons is right here. You feel like there's more people that appreciate the game in different ways than being a player or a coach. And you can share stories and you can share the appreciation that we have and the love that we have for the game over a microphone or over a conversation, a podcast like we are right now. And I think that part of it has been really enjoyable. Telling Gretzky stories, telling Crosby stories. We haven't told our Trent Frederick stories yet, but Cole Caulfield, just talking about the great people in our game has been a ton of fun. It's whether it's bragging or not, we are blessed to have it's not just our one team that's the hockey world. It's everybody. And I'm going to go to this really quick. I got sick 6-7 months ago with some cancer. I had treatments for chemo and radiation for a long time. during that time, the hockey world was my family. My family is great, and my parents and siblings and kids were unbelievable as far as the support. But my extended family in the hockey world was the juice and the inspiration for me, realizing that, hey, this is tough, but I'm going to beat this. I'm going to get through this. And I got a whole slew of teammates with me to help me through that. So that's the part about now that at the broadcasting part, I'm not just on one team or one organization or one school or one university. I'm part of the big hockey picture. And I think I've come to enjoy that in a way that I never thought I would. And I know you guys, you're doing it, and you probably appreciate it in kind of similar ways. I'm a lot older than you guys, but I'll say it every time I'm on a TV show or broadcast or anyone asks me a question about the game of hockey. The game of hockey is great. The people in the game of hockey are even greater. And that's why it's so special to be bragging about it, talking about it, sharing stories with you guys, and listening to what you guys think about different things that go on as well. I want to know everything. And so I appreciate that question and the chance to just get an opportunity to tell you guys that.
Yeah. Kind of tough to follow up on that one, I feel like too, but I have a couple more that I definitely want to ask, but I did have your Wikipedia page up before, and I know you mentioned that you are 60 years old. You turned 60 July 25th, so not too long ago. Did you have anything fun planned for the 60th birthday? I know that's a big one. Those always call for a big celebration.
It was. I had nothing planned, but we had a family wedding coming up on the 27th. So lots of my family was kind of getting back into town. So my wife took advantage of that, had a surprise party for me.
Nice.
And then obviously I just had finished the cancer treatments probably the month before. And I hadn't seen everybody as I have at different would come in. My brother would fly in, my sister would come in and fly in, my other sister would drive, my other brothers would drive. So I saw everybody, but separate. They'd all pop in to just check on me during my treatment. Same with my kids. So they had a surprise party where they were all there. Plus my wife invited a group of friends. So that's the way we celebrated my 60th. Then we had another party when we got down to the wedding. Then we had the wedding. Then we had a baby shower for my brother that was having a kid. And then we had my wife's birthday party. So all this family,
a lot happening. Yeah,
party happened within like a 7-day period with all of the family there. So that's how I celebrated my 60th, was with a bunch of family. So thanks for asking.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And Johnny, when I texted Tony to ask him come on the show, like immediately I got a picture of him with his grandkids, so you can see.
Oh, you did, because that's where I was last week when you texted me. Yes,
you can see the family thing, and you bring up your mom and your dad, and you're talking about your family. I always am just like, I know how hard my family worked to help me get to where I got within this game. And to play in the NHL. And then I look at these families like, you're a U.S. Hockey Hall of Famer. Your sister's a U.S. Hockey Hall of Famer. She's done all these things. She took the game to the highest level. Your brother's a coach in the NHL. He played the game. Like, what is in the meal plan for these families that are producing multiple, kids that are going to the highest levels? I mean, it's a testament to your parents, and it's really incredible.
Yeah, well, thanks. Well, back when we started playing, we were all Blackhawk fanatics. So Stan Mikita, Bobby Hall, Tony Esposito, that was Keith Magnuson. Those were our guys. We didn't have. We were fine. We got skates. We got equipment. We wouldn't have the luxury of being able to go all over to play hockey. So lots of the hockey that we played was created by ourselves. So we'd play in the basement. We'd come home from school. And our Chicago Stadium, our Maple Leaf Garden, our Boston Garden was played in a room that size that I'm sitting in right now. And it would be, there's 6 of us in the family. My one sister had some health issues when she was young. She couldn't participate in the game. Cammie and me were on the same team. And Donnie and Robbie, my 2 brothers, were on the other team. And we would play every day in that basement. And we'd compete, and we would learn what teammates were about. We learned what we learned the game of hockey on our own. My parents gave us that opportunity to do that. And then once we started to, become, regular players, all of our family vacations were to hockey schools. Mm-hmm. Parents would load up the van. We'd drive to Toronto. We'd go to the Davy Keon Hockey School. everyone, all 6 of us. And our life was built around my parents giving all of us a chance to do what we love to do. And so I'm extremely grateful for it. I know my parents are as humble as any two people you'll ever meet. But for them to recognize and say, okay, my kids are doing something that not many other kids are doing, but they're doing it together. They're teaching each other lots of different things about life, and they're doing it somewhat in a safe environment. Go for it, guys. And so they've always been there to do that. Cammie's story for me is the one that's, I'm probably most proud of, because of how she had to accomplish things that, I guess you guys are a little bit younger to kind of recognize. Back in the 70s when she played hockey, there were basically no girls that played hockey. So she played on an all-boys team. There were tournaments she played in where girls weren't allowed to play, where she changed her name to Carl, put her hair up in a bun, and she was Carl Granado.
I've heard those stories, yeah.
Wow.
And she walked in the rinks, and parents would go, "What is that girl doing with a hockey bag?" And she'd have to go dress in the women's bathroom. There was no whatever. And she did that all the way through high school. And fortunately, college hockey became a little more popular out east. She went to Providence. And then what I really respect, she loved hockey so much that there was rumors that there would be potentially Olympic spectator sport would be women's ice hockey. And that was in 1988, okay? That was at our Olympics. She played a few more years at Providence. And then for like 5 years, she had to find a way to play just in case there was going to be an Olympics in 98. So she did. She went and played men's league, and she played at Concordia, which allowed a good amount of time playing as a college athlete. And she did. She persevered and waited it out and was able to be part of the first ever Olympic team. And they ended up winning a gold medal. And that's not just Cammie. So I use her story, but every one of those girls that were on that team had to be they had to ignore all of the noise that was around them about you playing hockey. You should be a figure skater or go play soccer. Girls don't play hockey. And they said, "What do you mean we don't play hockey? We love hockey." And so I always admire her, because she grew up and she said, same way I did, I want to be on the Chicago Blackhawks. And I wasn't going to tell her, "Hey, you can't play in the Blackhawks," but eventually she figured that out. And eventually she said, "Well, I'm going to continue to play hockey because I love hockey so much." So the girls' game has come from way down here to becoming a sport that is so respected and so fun to watch. And the girls now, I think everybody sees a girl walk into a rink now and you just smile. How cute is that? A girl carrying her bag with her tape and her sticks over her shoulder. And they go on the ice. They love the game as much as we do, and our game's gotten better because of it.
Yeah, and the PWHL, I believe, has some announcements coming up too about actual team names, which is going to be even better from recognition and whatnot. I just played in like a charity event actually with Jilly Saulnier and Megan Bozek, two pretty popular women's players. But first of all, I have one more for you, but I just want to thank you for your time again today. Like, seriously, Colby and I couldn't appreciate it anymore. Selfishly, I have to ask you my final question, because when you were playing for the Rangers for those 2 seasons, you were around my age. I'm 28 years old right now, and I'm a New Yorker. Live in New York. So I'm curious, where you were spending your time, off the ice, because it's changed a lot now. The current Rangers they're in like Connecticut now. They don't really live in the city. So, were you going to McSorley's or China Room? I heard was like a big spot back then.
Yeah,
where were
China. It was China something. China Club.
Yeah,
was it? No,
China Club. Something like that. Yeah,
something like that. That was one of them. But let me just
Brian Mullen was an old coach of mine, one of my favorite people in the world.
Oh, God, what a great
Mullen,
teammate Brian was.
Yeah,
Mullen was phenomenal. And we were together that year. Leachy and I came in together. Leachy was single and young. I was, and I'm going to tell you this, I was fortunately married. So I got married the summer before I made it. And I didn't need to be running around in downtown. I didn't need to be finding the places. I needed to go home, and I needed every ounce of rest I could get. I was still only probably 165 pounds my first year in the NHL. And I wanted to make it really bad. And I wanted to make, and I wanted to be a great teammate. If I had to go somewhere because the guys were going out, trust me, I was there. But I had Guy Lafleur, Marcel Dion, Ron Greshner, Chris Nyland, Kelly Kissio, Brian Mullen. I had a great group of older veteran players that really helped me and Leachy kind of get our feet in the door. They helped us. They respected us. And that's another thing I was really fortunate to have. Great veteran. I can't tell you how important it is. And I'm looking at the Chicago Blackhawks right now, and they added Bertuzzi, and they added a couple other, Craig Smith, and a few other veteran players.
Love Smitty. That's a great ad for
great
Connor.
ad. Thank you. Great ad.
Great
and
ad.
Nick Foligno last year. You have to have the right veteran players for young players to develop and understand and learn about the steps that they need to take to get to the top. And so I was lucky both there and both in LA to have those guys. And you mentioned our LA roster. I had Larry Robinson. Don't forget Larry was there too. Paul Coffey, Rick Tocchet, Yari Curry.
They're all-star. You look at them,
Huddy.
like those are all-star teams. Like
those
how
are
is
Hall of Famers, and I'm this young kid coming in, and I got all these guys around me to learn from. And so I learned everything. That's the one thing I will tell you that I'm most proud of. I was a good learner. I absorbed everything that was going on around me and tried again, I had Gretzky as a roommate. I could listen to Gretz 24 hours a day because whatever he said, it registered with me as I'm learning something and I'm going to take advantage of this. And that's what I was. I was a good listener and learner, and I applied fast. And it was because I was fortunate enough to have all those guys around me.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I walked up to Brian Leach in the Boca Mall probably in the last like 2 or 3 years because my mom lives in Boca, and I see him standing there, and I'm like, I'm not going to not walk over to Brian Leach.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. And he watches the Frozen 4, and he's a huge watcher. And he's like, what's up, Colby? And I'm like,
no way.
Wait, what? I'm like, what's up, Colby? Like, you know my name? I'm like,
I got another story for you, just really quick. I'm gonna cut you off on that one. So Brian Leach, this involves Brian Leach and Wayne Gretzky. The first year in New York, Brian Leach and I were invited to the awards ceremony. Brian won Rookie of the Year that year, and I'm there with Brian. And he's elbowing me. He goes, "There's Gretz right there. There's Gretz." He goes, "You got to get a picture with him." I said, "All right, that's a great idea." I said, "Who's got a camera?" He goes, "My mom and dad do." I said, "All right." I said, "Go ask him." He goes, "I'm not asking him. You ask him." So honest to God, I walk up to him and I kind of go, "Hey, I think I said Wayne. I don't think I said Mr. Gretzky. I think I said Wayne." I said Wayne. He goes, turns around and said, "Hey, Tony, how you doing? Congratulations on a great year." And so he knew my name. So when Brian Leach did that to you, Wayne did that to me that year. And I'm like, holy cow. Wow. How the heck do you know who I am?
Yeah.
And that's very powerful. And just like, wow, I didn't know you. So we took the picture, me and Gretz and Brian. I have it on my desk down the hall. And a year later, I get traded, to LA, and now I'm his teammate, and now I'm his not even a year. I think it was 4 months later. I walk into the room, and Wayne's my roommate. So,
well, yours was because you had a great year in the NHL, and you were like the leading goal scorer as a rookie. Mine was because Leach probably has to mute me on TV during the Frozen 4. He's like, "Who's this BU guy who won't stop?"
I don't think so, Colby.
But no, it's so powerful. That's happened to me more as I've done TV than from my playing. And it happened to me with John LeClaire one time, who was like one of my idols growing up, and look, you mentioned how great this community is. Some of the nicest guys I ever met are Joe Sakic and Mark Recchi, like the legends, the guys who have won cups and MVPs and Hall of Famers. Like we had JR on our show, Tony, and like I told Johnny before the show, I'm like I love JR. Like I love him. Like he's been so good to me in my life. So I just like warned him that like it was like almost like emotional just to have him on the show because like he's just been so sweet to me since I've met him. And those legends are they're the greatest guys for the most part, right? For the most
part, it is. And I think because of our greatest players like Gretz and Crosby and Beliveau and Howe and all those guys, I think there's something that comes along with them, a responsibility that they just accept. Okay, if I'm going to be a star, I have to be this way, and they really are. And the other thing that I say, Leachy knew who you were, and you said Johnny LeClaire knew who you were. The part about them is they are students of the game in a way that they kind of want to know everything about everybody. And so they'll pay attention to that. So that's what I learned from Gretz too. He knew everything and everybody. And because you were part of the game, he wanted to know who you were. So that's a great compliment to those guys, but it's also a compliment to you.
Yeah. I don't have a story like that. I just messaged Colby on LinkedIn.
Well, you did have your moment with Mark Messier at the All-Star game, but you kind of
we don't talk about that. We don't talk about
you dropped the ball.
It's a memorable one, but was it a fun one?
Oh, it's terrible. I went up to him drunk at 2 a.m. at a bar and said I wrote that he was my hero
at PK Subban's party.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I'm
And
sure
this wasn't
he
like
remembers it.
this was last year, not when I was a kid. This was last year.
You want a Messier story? So-
Whatever
so-
story you got, Tony, we're not going to stop.
All right, so Mess is one of the toughest players. Well, he is. He was the toughest, scariest guy I ever played against. I played Probert and all those guys. They'd beat each other up. I'd never fight those guys. They might, try to grab me and punch me around and whatever. But Messier scared me because he was so strong, such a great skater, and so intense and competitive that you never knew was coming. He had those elbows that he would get you with, but he had this other little quick move. It was kind of a punch butt end. So cross check. And so we're playing in Edmonton.
Sam Bennett move?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Mess was way better and way more deceptive. Nobody would know what would happen except the only people that knew were your trainer, because you had to get a towel to get the blood off your face, and the guy that was going to stitch you up after. But Mess got me once in Edmonton, and this is the rivalry. I'm playing with Gretz versus Edmonton in Edmonton. Edmonton hated LA big time. We hated Edmonton big time because we were trying to establish ourselves as we got the better of the trade and all this other stuff. Mess gets me in the end of the first period. He gets me right above my eye, and he got me good. So I get 10 or 12 stitches here. And I go into the locker room. I get stitched up. I'm good. Jump back out of the table. Hey, the period's going to start. Get back on the ice. We do it back out there again. Boom. Gets me on the other eye. So it's the second period. So I go back in. Doctor's going, oh, what happened? Did you rip your stitches open? I said, no, I got him on the other guy. And he goes, who got you? I go, same guy that got me on this side, got me on that eye. So I get stitched back up. We go back out on the ice, and we're in either overtime or late in the game. And Gretz is lined up for a face-off against Messier. And I go, Gretz, I got this one, because I wanted to take it against Messier. Mm-hmm. Not because I was going to stick him in the face and try to get even with him. I just wanted to show him, hey, you can hit me as many times as you want. I'm still going to show back up. And so he looks at me and he goes, I'm going to give you one more. And I think this is going to be something like, I'm going to give you one more, and this is going to be the knockout one. And I said, hey, you gave me your two best shots, and I'm still here. So that was my confrontation and my memory of Mark Messier. But as far as being a player that you played against, that you feared, that would be the one guy that I would say maybe scared me a little bit. Because
do you guys have a relationship now?
Yeah, played with him on the 99er team. So Gretz's team that he brought to Europe during the lockout in 94, maybe. We were sitting around, and Gretz calls his buddies up and says, hey, we're going to go play 10 games of hockey in Europe.
What a call to
get. Somehow I'm on the team. I'm on the team with Pat Conacher and Rick Tocchet. We were the fourth line. We have Curry, Yzerman, Gretzky, Brett Hull. It was all Hall of Famers except Tock could be a Hall of Famer. And then me, Pat Conacher, and Rick Tocchet are the fourth line. We're dumping and chasing. And these guys are zipping it around like whatever. And so, yeah, we went over there, and thank God I was Gretz's buddy, and I got to play on the team. So I played with Messier on that team, which awesome. Was a ton of fun.
That's cool. Yeah, I
well,
never
look,
heard that
we took up way too much of your time, which we do have a tendency to do on this show. We ask people for 30 minutes, and then we keep them sometimes for an hour and a half.
31 now or 32?
But yeah, we'll go with that, okay? But hey, look, it was good catching up with you today. It's good to see you looking good. You can hear the excitement and the energy back in your voice. Your hair's growing back in.
You look great.
Love to see that. And I guess the last question I have for you before we officially say goodbye, should we ever expect to see you on a bench again? Or is the whistle, have you dipped it in gold and hung it up once and for all?
I don't want to say never. I will tell you, just with the health scare last year, I did have a call this summer to see if I'd be interested in going in for an interview. And I said, no, I can't at this time. I don't want to commit to a team and then have to get any sort of treatment or medicine during a year and walk away from a bench. So I don't feel I'm ready to do that in a year, maybe. But like I told you earlier, man, I love this gig right now. And if I continue to keep having fun with it, I don't need to go back to coach. When I was a player and I took the year off and I didn't really have anything, I needed to get back on a bench. I mean, that year away of not being part of a team and part of an organization and on a bench, it was really hard. And we can talk about that at a different time, about the difficulties of the transition to walking away from a career was really hard for me. And fortunately, I got on that bench and this time when I got off the bench, timing wise, because of my health issues, was perfect. And now that I've learned to appreciate the game, like I said, from a different seat, I'm loving it. And if I continue to love it, I'm going to do this as long as I can.
Great. All right. Well, look, we love you. We'll probably check in with you during the season and try to have you during the regular season, Tony. We're live every morning. So we actually do the show.
There's a lot of pressure being live
during the regular season. But I will tell you, after this appearance and with you being a part of the media now, we're going to be calling on you again. So
anytime, Colby. Anytime.
It won't be me, though.
Johnny, you're out?
What?
You're out. You're not going to be part of the show.
No, I just won't bother you.
You won't bother me.
Yeah, Colby probably won't even give me your contact.
Messier. Go up to Messier when you're shit faced and you say, "Hey." Yeah.
I need some redemption.
Colby, I appreciate that. I'll come on anytime with you guys, Johnny. Thank you. It was fun. It's always fun talking hockey and bragging about our players and our sport.
A big thank you once again to Tony Granato for coming on the show. It was such a blast talking to him, and he gave us an extra 30 minutes after the recording of his time to just hang out, shoot the shit. So really appreciative of him. That interview was brought to you by our sponsor, Out West. For a limited time, when you purchase any 3 of our premium polos, you'll get a 4th item of your choice from our entire site for free. So whether you're looking to upgrade your wardrobe with high-quality modern activewear or stock up on essentials for your winter golf trip, now's the perfect time to shop and grab a free one on us. So visit outwestgolf.com today and take advantage of this exclusive offer. Out West, every game needs an outlaw. Use our code Cuppa, CUPPA, in all caps for a beautiful 15% off. That's going to do it for this week's episode. We got another fun interview coming up next week. Training camps are underway officially tomorrow when the players hit the ice. So a lot to look forward to. Hockey season is officially back. We'll have one last summer interview next week. Then we'll get into the live shows in 2 weeks. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. Leave comments, hopefully positive, but we'll also take the negative comments too with a grain of salt. We love you guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Seravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.